get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. We're going to jump right in today. Well, actually, hold on, time out. We're not going to jump right in. I do just got to give a couple of announcements out there, you guys. We drop a little weekly newsletter, all right? So if you want to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for that, we put some cool stuff out there every single week, you guys. You know, it's all industry related. We talk rates on there, fuel prices, you know, industry knowledge, all of that stuff. We do that on a weekly basis. I won't auto sign you up for it, but yeah, jump into that if you want to get it. It drops every single Wednesday. Today's topic, though, because it's going to be a solo show, and every time I do a solo show, because, you know, all of my guests that I have, you guys have day jobs, and sometimes it just doesn't work where they can come on here. But what we're going to talk about today, though, is the question that I get asked the absolute most outside, like by far, is sales. I need more sales, but also most importantly, how do I train people to sell? And that's another thing too, is it can be complicated, but it's also pretty simple and basic, in my opinion, out there about what we're doing, so we're going to talk about some strategies that, you can implement into your business today. And then, and especially if you have limited sales experience in transportation, this is going to be very beneficial for you, because this is literally what I do every single day. I have trained a lot of sales reps in my career. It's a passion of mine. There is probably nothing I enjoy more than the training and development aspect of the business. And we've done it, and this is what we do. And, just a little side note, this is something my business partner, who literally had zero sales experience, let alone zero transportation experience. This is a lot of the stuff of what he did to personally onboard about 6 new customers here in the last 3 months. So take everything about what we're going to talk about today from that standpoint, you guys. This is stuff that I do. This is stuff that my business partner who didn't have any sales experience, this is what he's done. This is what a lot of the stuff that I taught when I was out there doing consulting and working with other companies and everything. But again, this is what we apply today. And this is what literally all of you guys can apply inside of your business. Again, nothing of what I do is proprietary. I'm a firm believer that ultimately at the end of the day, the only real differentiating factor that your prospects look for, whether it's going to be if I called them or my man Sonny Sharma called them, is who do they like better? That's what I truly feel like at the end of the day. Yeah, you got to know your shit and stuff like that, but ultimately, who do they develop a connection with? And I feel like that's what it's going to boil down to. So I want to start with this. This is a very bold statement. I don't think there's any natural sales reps out there. All right. I truly don't. I don't think there's any natural people out there for many professions. I feel like there's some people who've got some talent, right? But I feel like the most successful individuals are the ones who cultivate that, and they are constantly committed to mastering their craft. You know, I instantly think of arguably the greatest football player of all time in Tom Brady, right? Overlooked. If you know his story, you know what I'm getting at here. Because in my opinion, you do not need to be anything other than what others aren't willing to do. And that you got to be willing to work for this shit. You have to be willing to practice this stuff day in and day out. And most people don't. Most people don't want to commit to what it actually takes. And then they just throw their hands up in the air and say, fuck it, I suck. I'm done. This isn't for me. I think most of this stuff, obviously, I'm not going to go play in the NBA, right? Like I'm barely 6 feet tall in heels and, you know, I'm almost 40. So NBA is probably not in the future. But here's one thing that I have that I know is a superpower of mine is my work ethic, right? Like I will not quit. No matter what, I will not quit. I will keep showing up. There are people out there that are more talented than me, that are, you know, better speakers than I am and all of that. But one thing that I have that most people don't, I won't fucking stop. Okay. And I feel like out there, no matter what, that's the greatest skill that you need to hone is that work ethic and that ability just to keep showing up no matter what. But I'm going to list out, I might have 10 steps that we might go through here, you guys. These are just some basic overviews that I think all of you can apply inside of your business. So we're going to take this approach of where do I start? It's pretty simple, you guys. Learn the industry basics, number one. It is very alarming to me the amount of people that I know inside of this industry that got their start and there was no training at all. There was here's a dry van, here's a reefer, here's a flatbed, there's a list of 100 numbers, pick up the phone and start dialing. Smile and dial, baby, as they like to say. I think that is a colossal waste of fucking time at the end of the day. And from my perspective, we need to learn the basics because the basics is what I think the fundamentals, the blocking and tackling of transportation. I think ultimately that is what gets people to want to work with you because I know this. As somebody who cold calls shippers literally every single day, I cold call prospects. I do the work, you guys, but I also did it before the freight boom, the gold rush of 2021 and 2022 and all the chaos that came along with it. I know back in the day, you used to call some people after a couple of conversations, they'd give you a prove it shipment. All right. That's just my experience. Now, today's experience doesn't matter, right? I have found that the more direct I am about why I'm calling, i.e. what I always talk about, choose your niche, your ideal customer. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. But again, you do that. That's what gets us the greatest ROI. Our greatest sales line is telling people what we won't do, right? LTL, some of that other shit that's out there that we just don't touch. So speaking of that, what are the modes of transportation? Primarily as a broker, you're going after LTL, full truckload, intermodal, drayage. You know, you can put air freight in there if you want, if you're at an air freight company, whatever, insert any topic that it is. You know, what are all, you know, like fuel factor, you know, what are some freight pricing, what are like some cost factors that come along with it as well? Fuel, weights, lanes, accessorial fees, right? So let's start with weights, right? Weight is a very big deal out there in the full truckload space. That's why it's like, for me, I don't understand the benefit in, if a shipment is 42,000 pounds, tell the driver it's 42,000 pounds, right? If it's 42,300 pounds, tell them it's 42,300 pounds. I don't understand why you wouldn't give that information out there. And then also finding out, the basics about the industry, like, what's a drive-in, what's a reefer, what's a flatbed, what's a step deck, what's an RGN, and then all of the accessorials that kind of come along with that, right? What's a lumper service? What are tarps? Why are tarps needed? What are edge protectors? Stuff like that. Start at the very basics and then work your way up from there. Common pain points that our customers go through out there. And outside of this, outside of lack of communication, but that's what it really boils down to. Communication is going to be everything in this, so delays, the reliability of the service provider that's out there, that's a major pain point. If you're not communicating with your customers, or, if you're a broker and you're not communicating with your carriers, that causes issues. And we cannot have issues, right? As one of my really good friends, who is a longtime shipper, who's been on the show before, had said, he's like, you can have a bad day of service, a bad week. Hell, you can even have a bad month of service, but you can never have a bad day of communication. So talking about that. And then also, you guys, regulations inside of the industry. So that, DOT, what is the Department of Transportation compliance? What are ELDs? Insurance coverages, stuff like that. 100,000 in cargo, 250 in cargo, reefer breakdown, errors and omissions. Start with the basics. And again, you guys, this is just all some general overviews here, but this is stuff that you should be talking to your reps about, because, at the end of the day, you can't go out there and have them start making promises on shit that is just impossible, because you know what? It could take you 6 months to onboard a customer, but can take you literally 6 seconds to lose that customer if you commit to something that is not going to happen, or it's not legal and everything else. So step number 1 in all of this, you guys, learn the basics. All right. And again, you don't need to go to a course. You don't need to sign up for any of that shit. Most people who are offering courses have never done this job. All right. I'm going to toot my own horn here. You can listen to this show. It's free. It will always be free. There will never be a paid course associated with it. The people who've signed up for my email list, they could probably all vouch that for my newsletter, that they only receive the newsletter from me. All right. I don't sell that shit. I wouldn't even know how to sell that shit if it even came out, because I don't know this stuff. But again, you guys, start there. If you're looking for some other people to follow, if you're on the trucking side of things, you got to follow Adam Wingfield at the end of the day. He is the voice of the small carrier out there. You also need to follow, a guy, Chris Brewer. He posts stuff all the time. Those are just a couple of people. There's plenty of other ones that are out there that are good at this, but I'm just trying to put some people out there that are actually doing the job every single day. Now, number 2, what is your ideal customer profile? All right. We had Sarah Black on the show the other day. We were talking about enterprise sales, right? And I feel like a lot of people go out there and they're like, hey, how do I go after, I want to go after the largest shippers in North America. I don't want to drop any names on here, but just say energy drink cans, or, some of those large beverages or stuff like that. You can go after that, if you want, but it's a different, longer sales cycle. But again, knowing who you want to go after and what you want to go after is very crucial, right? I want to stay in the small to mid-sized market that's out there because of where my business's current capabilities are. I know there's a lot of stuff that comes in with a lot of those large enterprise shippers. There's a lot of volume commitments, and I don't know if I can necessarily do 150 loads a day today if that was the requirement from that, right? Could I build up into that? Absolutely. That's the plan long term. But at the end of the day, you guys, I got to go after what I want. And growing up in the industry and working for a large broker early on. We worked with a lot of the large enterprise shippers that were out there. And I've done that. And I've also worked for the small to mid-size market. I like working with the small to mid-size market a lot more out there. So, again, we do open deck and heavy haul here. That is our ideal customer profile. Yes, we do some full truckload dry van, but it's mainly building materials and in plastics and stuff like that. I don't go into food, beverage, anything like that. Reefer freight, I don't touch any of that stuff. Like I had mentioned, when I'm cold calling people, we don't do LTL either. So I make sure everybody knows that, because LTL is a big component of it. And if they want to go after, and if they're going after LTL, that's for them. And I just don't want that, right? So for me, who is your ideal customer profile? Go after that and stick with that as you're building, right? Again, this is how do we train sales reps out there? So we're repeatable, scalable actions that come along with it. So, another one that's common is people like using sales scripts. I personally don't like using a script. Do I have one? Yes, I've practiced it. I've ingrained it into my outreach. I just don't read off of it. Of the, if a shipper responds with this, say that. I don't do any of that, because I like free flowing conversations at the end of the day. That's where I like to sit. So again, write some stuff down and practice it, right? I mean, again, being able to clearly articulate yourself in an introduction on a phone call is pretty crucial out there if you want to kind of make your way down, because you're going to go out there and you're going to speak to the gatekeeper more times than not. And then you're going to speak to the actual transportation manager in due time. And you have, and again, when you have your ideal customer profile associated with that, you can ask some key qualifying questions out there as you're going, right? A big one. Hi, my name is Chris. I was hoping to speak with somebody who handles your transportation or logistics, please. Then you get them on the phone. Then put out my name, my company name, why I'm calling. Hey, we specialize in full truckload transportation. I was reaching out today to introduce ourselves. We don't do any LTL. It looks like your product might be LTL or possibly small pack parcel. If that's the case, we're just not going to be a fit. I throw that out there instantly when I'm talking to somebody, because I'm looking for ways to show them I'm a little bit different. Again, these are just some of the strategies that work for us as we're going out there. When we get objections for whatever reason, I try and end the call at that, or like kind of around there, right? Like here, a common objection you're going to get as a broker is we don't work with brokers. We are asset only. Hey, I completely understand that. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great day. I do that on the first call, because I've been doing this long enough to know that more times than not, they're just trying to get you off the phone the first time you're talking to them. They got a job to do, and they're not sitting around and waiting for you to call them. So I do that. I take that note, and then I call them back, whether it's in 3 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is. They don't remember you. It might be an ego hit to you, but nobody remembers you after you call them. So I'm going to call them again, and then if I get told the exact same response that, hey, listen, we're 100% asset only, or we're 100% customer routed, or we're 100% this, and it doesn't fit into what I do, I'm not going to continue to call them, because again, I need revenue, you guys. I don't need hypothetical just because this company has 15 locations nationwide and I think they're going to be great. If they tell you no, they tell you no. You got to find a yes. And I feel like a lot of sales reps get hung up too much on the no's, that they think that they can somehow convince these people to change their operations. Because trust me, you guys, there's a lot of people out there that will work with brokers, right? So you got to go out there and you got to find it. So another step, how do you prospect? Like what are some lead generation strategies, right? Like what is prospecting? Again, you've identified your ideal customer profile and everything else. How do you get leads? I personally use a company called Seamless for our leads. There are a lot of good lead generation software that is out there. I'm going to be having some of those guys come on my show here coming up to kind of talk about that, because lead generation software is very beneficial if you can afford it. If you can't, it's really good. Google. All right. Google is a phenomenal tool for this, and it's free. Okay. So you can go out there and you can Google concrete or bricks, Dallas, Texas, and voila, 15 companies pop up right there. Okay. So it's a good strategy that you can go out. If you can afford LinkedIn Sales Navigator, that's a really good one that you can use. Or if you can afford the premium subscription on LinkedIn, you can get a little bit more information on there. And again, you can just go in, you can search company names on LinkedIn, you can type logistics or transportation or supply chain into LinkedIn on the company's profile under the people's tab, and it'll pop people up on there. All right. Some people will reach out, they'll connect, do social selling through that. I am maybe just some old school in me, where I have found a very higher ROI in cold calling and site visits. All right. That is the biggest ROI that we've gotten from a freight perspective for the customers that we are going after. From my perspective, getting out there, attending events, that's one thing. I've been to some shipper, like manufacturing conferences that are out there. And, again, can you land business from there? Yes. I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't, but I also think that more times than not, most of the people who go to these conferences, manufacturing conferences, are those companies' sales reps. So maybe sometimes they organize the freight, but at the end of the day, those guys are there to sell and probably not be sold to. Again, just my personal preference, not saying it's not going to work out for you. So, again, another big thing about prospecting, you guys, when it comes down to it with cold calling and stuff like that, the best practice is just by going out there and doing it. Like I was saying earlier, for example, nobody's going to remember you. All right. Like I would be shocked if you fuck somebody's day up that much to where they're going to write your name down and remember you every single time you call after that. Right. I promise you, I'm not saying you're not special as a person, but you're not that special out there where everybody just remembers literally everything that you do. So, going out there and practicing that, I've talked about this in the past. Follow and build a process that works inside of your day to day. All right. I am a firm believer that you need to start by just, choose an amount of calls in a day and stick to that for an extended period of time. That might be 30 days, for example. All right. So say I am going to make 25 cold calls every single day for the next 30 days. And you do that day in and day out, no matter what. You're not going to feel like it some days. You're going to get hung up on 25 times some days, but you need to do it day in and day out. If you hit 30 calls in one day, guess what? Next day, 25 calls. All right. Do not give yourself any, I did this much today, I'm going to do little yesterday. Because, and I say this, you guys, because there are days where you are going to feel very motivated to do your job. And you might knock out like 80 calls that day. And then the next day you come in, maybe you got in a fight with your significant other, your dog puked on your floor before you were walking out the door, whatever. Stuff happens, you're pissed off, you come in, and then you give yourself a reason to not do it. And those are what kills more dreams than not. To me, it is about following a system day in and day out that you are going to do no matter what. Okay. And then here's one thing. Here's a very simple thing. 25 calls a day for 30 days. Track how long it takes you to do those 25 calls for those 30 days. If it takes you 4 hours a day when you start, and by the time you're done after those 30 days, you're getting it done in 2 hours, I believe in add 5. Then the next 30 days, do 30 cold calls a day, and then track that and then see. And then you're increasing your output every single day. This takes time. All right. This is because things are going to happen. Like throughout the day, you're going to get busy, you're going to do some other stuff, and you're going to find a reason to not do it at certain points. But I feel like if you stick to small digestible bites and small incremental increases to your output, you're going to stick to that. You're going to ingrain that into your daily habits, and you're going to do it no matter what. So, here's another thing too. And another thing that you can do inside of your organization: role playing, live training, right? Like this is for me personally. I learn from people who've done what I'm looking to do, right? Like I try and surround myself, like in business, for example, I try and surround myself by other business owners who've built the companies that I'm trying to build right now. And, so it's like I'm learning from them. So same thing inside of sales. And now this is where I'm going to go inside of what we've done, with my business partner, who was never a sales rep at all. He never sold anything. He was an engineer. And now he is onboarding multiple shippers a month inside of our brokerage right now, based on a lot of this, you guys. And a lot of it is role playing, you guys. It's practicing what we're doing. And I know I already kind of mentioned that a little bit in there, but practice that stuff. Another thing, show it, right? If you're training an individual out there and you're afraid as the trainer to pick up the phone and make a cold call in front of your people, how can you expect your people to do it every single day if you're not willing to do it? That's my personal preference, right? Inside of my organization, I'm never going to be afraid to jump on the phone and make a sales call, because at the end of the day, that's my job as a business owner, right? I am the only one who's going to sell my company, no matter what, day in and day out, because it's my company, right? So what we like to do is role play a lot of that. Go over, practice some of those objections, because you're going to get hit with some of those objections. And the way that I see it is your ability to navigate through that conversation is what earns you the business long term. Because I have had multiple calls here over the past couple of weeks where it started with, we're asset only, and it ended with, you know what, man, why don't you give me your email? Let's stay in contact. Things happen, things happen throughout the year. That's a major win in a sales call, right? And it was all because I stuck with what we did, right? Like, hey, we're full truckload. We don't do LTL. We do open deck. Your product is what we haul. Like, that's all we do at the end of the day. And then you hit them with some facts throughout there. You navigate through those objections. And before you know it, you never know. They might be cool with you following up, or they might say at the end, hey, we're asset only. We're not going to set you up no matter what. That's fine too. That's also a win, because knowing who not to go after is just as important as knowing who to go after. So again, practice a lot of this stuff, you guys. I would even go as far as practicing getting hung up on. Have somebody inside of your office. Maybe you got multiple offices across there. Have them call and practice getting hung up on. I get hung up on a few times a week. It's just part of it, right? But again, you can't let that stop you from making another call or another point of contact or anything else. You can't, because that's going to happen. You're going to catch people at the wrong time. Again, they're not just sitting there and waiting for us, but you as the sales rep have to be able to push through those situations and continue throughout your day. Another thing, data is what we were talking about. And this is another key step out there. I am not the biggest KPI fan at all. I feel like a lot of people over KPI their sales reps about everything. I feel like just keep it basic, keep it simple, and again, if your number is 50 calls in a day or 55 or 60 calls in a day, that's the main KPI that you need to be tracking. Are they making 60 dials in a day every single day? I think KPIing against talk time, I don't know, you can make an argument for either side of it, but at the end of the day, I feel like if you've built that individual up where they have a system to follow, they're not going to fall into the traps of finding that, those numbers that you can just call that that nobody's going to answer. I feel like if they feel like they got the support of the team and the organization, they're going to go through and they're going to make those dials no matter what, because eventually they're going to start having some good conversations. Eventually, that confidence in themselves is going to come through. So I think keep it very basic. If you're going out there, and again, I feel like some very easy steps for people to follow. If it's 50 calls in a day, make sure they hit 50 calls in a day, no matter what. I don't care if it takes them all 8 hours of the day to make those 50 calls, but just do that, right? Follow that. Keep it simple. The more complex and the more experienced the rep or everything else, you can add some other ones on there, but I'm talking very basic. Where do I start? How do I get going? If you're an individual, for example, that's very key, right? Holding yourself to that, because at the end of the day, when you're starting out anything, whether it's a book of business or a business on your own, a lot of fucking internal noise that you're going to battle. And there's really only a couple of key ways that you can show progress. And that is if you put out a couple of key tasks for you to accomplish in a day, and you do that every single day, at least you're moving the needle forward. But again, keep it simple out there, you guys. And then, maybe you're like me, you got a business partner out there, and you guys are out there putting in the work together. I text my business partner throughout the day. I'll say 35 dials, right? My number is 55. I make 55 cold calls a day. So when I hit 35 or 30 or whatever it is, I'll just text him that, right? And then when I finish it, I'm going to text him that. And again, it's just that accountability. All right. Because I don't want to let him down. He doesn't want to let me down. So we just keep each other and hold each other accountable throughout the day. And then on top of it, you guys, in kind of final thoughts, there's probably about 5 key points here for you guys to utilize inside of your business. Again, I would say at the end of the day, you guys start with the basics. All right. Focus on the basics. Learn the blocking and tackling of transportation, especially if you are a broker. Learn that, learn hours of service, learn weights, learn commodities, trailer types, all of that stuff. Learn that until you cannot forget that, because I truly feel at the end of the day, that is going to be the greatest separator out there when you are prospecting is do you actually know what the hell you are talking about, or are you just blowing smoke? And I feel like if you know the basics of the industry, you are going to succeed. And then another thing too, what's working for you early on, it's a constant refinement, right? Like I was saying, hey, once you make 25 calls in a day, every day for a certain amount of time, and then you've noticed that it took you for 4 hours, now you're doing it in 2, add on a little bit at that, right? Refine it, increase your outreach, do stuff like that. And I feel like, at the end of the day, you guys, you just got to start. You just got to start. Anything that you just heard on this show is irrelevant if you don't refine and like do the actual work. Excuse me. All of what I said is irrelevant. But if you actually go out there and you set it, right? Hey, I'm going to make 25 calls every single day for the next 30 days, no matter what. And then you do that and you practice your pitch. Hi, my name is Chris Jolly. I'm the founder of Freight Coach Logistics. We are a broker, but we just specialize in full truckload transportation. Insert anything that you want there. Practice that. Go through that day in and day out. Eventually, the tides are going to start to turn in your favor with that. So that is going to be it for today, you guys. That are some key points of a little bit of a process that you can follow inside of your organization. And if you've never done sales before, or maybe you're training sales reps, or you're about to train some sales reps, start with those things on there, you guys. But that is going to be it for today. We got more guests coming on next week out here, you guys. But as always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.